All right.
Hi,
So,
Kristina.
oh, hello, Venerable Katy.
So nice to see you.
It's lovely to see you. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
hmm So, I think I will introduce you first for people who haven't met you and spent time with you. You're originally from Perth in Western Australia, and you've been a Buddhist nun for over 18 years, and you're
No,
ordained with,
20, almost 21 now.
oh, 21 years. Okay. And you were ordained by His Holiness the Dalai Lama in Dharamsala in 2004.
Yes.
And you have served on a variety of positions with Lama Zopa Rinpoche's FPMT since 2003. And you've worked on the Liberation Prison Project as the spiritual program coordinator, chaplain coordinator. You've been living in Lama Zopa Rinpoche's residence in Aptos in California and helping with extensive offerings there every day. And in 2008, you did a 1 year
6 days a
retreat.
week. 1 year retreat, yeah.
Almost every day. And
Kangaroo Island.
on Kangaroo Island at Daytong Ling Retreat Centre in South Australia. And since 2013, until the pandemic, you visited Lawudo Gompa annually for retreat and study to help Anila Rinpoche's sister with offerings in Rinpoche's cave and main Gompa. And you helped all of the visitors who would come and stay and care for the baby cow. The
The,
baby, the changing, the, the ever-changing baby cow
well, I would
residing in
just,
Lotto.
yeah. Actually, the main Gompa, I probably wasn't doing so many offerings in there. I was doing the cave, and then I wanted me to do the cave. And that's quite a task because you have to lug water up the hill. And sometimes she would ask Nima to take the water up there for me. But you've frozen again.
I
Are you
might
back?
just switch to my hotspot. Hang
Okay.
on. Okay, that's better.
I'm here. I'm
Okay,
back.
great. I feel like these obstacles
Okay.
come up because of the pilgrimage.
It's
I'll
true.
I'll edit that.
It's true.
Okay. Maybe I'll leave it. Yes. Okay. So I'm so delighted that you're going to join us to lead the trek this year on the Lawudo
Whoa.
Trek. Am I
Did
there?
that get recorded? You are.
So I'm so delighted that you're going to lead
Someone sending me a text
the
message.
trek this year. Oh, okay.
It's on Do Not Disturb, but there's one person that comes through. And I want to thank you for asking me to do it because it is such an honor for me to take people up there. The best thing I think I could ever do is just show people around up there. And I have no idea why. It's not my place. But Anila passed on so much to me in the years that I did go up there. And it was just such an amazing time of spaciousness, in my mind. And the one thing that I found every time I went up there is people are like, well, what do you think? What is it about this place? And I just would say it's the one place where my mind felt kind of clear, where I didn't have any junk in my mind, it just my mind felt really clear up there all the time. And that's just kind of extraordinary because haven't found really anywhere else where I felt that kind of quiet inside. And of course, when you're up there, you're at altitude, the food is not like we're used to. And so after some months, you can get like irritable things come up because you can't have a shower or this or that, or the lights don't work or something like that.
Actually, you can have a shower
But
now.
you can? Will the people be able to have a shower?
I believe there is a shower room and there's running water, of course. So
Well, there was a shower room when I was going up there, but it was like you would get hot water from the kitchen and take it over there and just have like a hospital bath. And then there was a shower you went frozen again, Christine.
I'm
Frozen.
here. I'm here.
You're like a
Oh my
voice that's
gosh.
wait, where did you go? Hey,
I'm
wait. This is how podcasts really go, it's like,
Is it?
yeah, natural. Anyway, so you were in the middle of introducing me and we got to Laudo and I interrupted you. Did you want to say anything else?
Actually, I just had a question about the
Yeah.
first time you went to Laudo in terms
Okay.
of, I mean, you discovered this spaciousness, but I'm curious about what actually was the first thing that drew you to wanting to go there?
Okay, so I had been on the Burma pilgrimage with Venerable Rabina, and I had, because we were so close to Kathmandu, I'd booked myself to go to Nepal, and I ended up at Kopan. And then I just kind of decided, I have no idea. I just decided I'm going to Laudo. Uh, I think I'd been wanting to do it for a while because I'd read the Laudo Lama more than once, and I was kind of
Mm,
fascinated by the place.
mhm,
And many years ago, when Venerable Rabina had sort of said, you're going to go do this 1 year retreat,
mm,
one of the places I thought I would like to go to is Laudo. And so we were talking to Annie Fran about whether I could do a year's retreat up in Laudo, and we decided that the visa situation would be too difficult because Westerners aren't really allowed to be in Nepal for more than, well, Australians anyway, I had an Australian passport at that time. I couldn't have been there for more than 5 months.
mhm,
So it wasn't really kind of possible. So then I was kind of curious. I'd heard all about Harry and Mary's caves up there as well. So it was kind of like this mystical place that I wanted to go check out.
mhm,
So, and I was talking to, Venerable Kunsang. I don't know if you ever knew him. He was this French monk that used to work for Rinpoche and take photographs and videos. And he passed away in 2016. But he was the one that said to me, "Oh, you can just wear those shoes. That'll be fine. You'll get up there. It's just like a path, like anything else." I'm like, "Okay, I'll wear these shoes." And they're just like approach shoes. So I thought, well, they're approach shoes. They should be fine. So anyway, it started out by me. There's this guy over the road directly opposite Boda Gate who's a travel agent.
mhm,
And he's this really kind of, again, a kind of mystical wise old man. He's really elderly. Anyway, so my journey kind of started with him. So I'd have to kind of walk across the road and dodge all the traffic. And then I booked a flight. I think I was supposed to go out on the 1st of October or something. And the flight was booked for the next morning. So I stayed in a hotel around the stupa, and then I got the taxi out to the airport. And of course, everything was cancelled, as often happens, because it was just like the end of the monsoon and it was really cloudy. And he was standing on the road just watching. He knew the planes were all cancelled. So he was standing on the road watching, and I came back to the hotel. I think I tried that for 3 days. I went backwards and forwards for 3 days. And then finally, and on the last day, I think I was so exasperated. I'm just like, oh, come on. Anyway, I finally did get up on the third day or third or fourth day of trying to go backwards and forwards between the hotel and the airport. And so when I landed, how did I do it? I somehow had a porter. I had a, oh no, I met this. No, I must have found a porter somewhere. They told me to go and have breakfast at this one place. I think it might have been Rinpoche's brother's family.
mhm,
So I went and had breakfast there. They organized me a porter. So I get on the track. I'm in my robes and my approach shoes and my Patagonia weather gear, and I'm trekking. And I think it was somehow on the way, I ran into a guide that was leading a group of French tourists up to Everest. And because I was a nun and he was a Buddhist, he's like, "Come join us." And I really don't think the French tourists were that pleased about having me come along on their trek, but he invited me. And so I went with them, and then we stopped at Pakting. And then I think we also stopped the next night at Josale, some kind of tiny little place in Josale. And I was quite grateful for it. It started to rain. So the next day we walked up to Namche Bazaar up that Namche Hill, and it started raining. And the mud was literally flowing down the hill. And it wasn't just mud, it was mud and caca and cow poo and donkey poo. And it was really, really and so of course my so-called approach shoes that Kunsang had said were like the best thing ever. They were saturated and covered in mud and dirt, and 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 I was kind of like going up there, had my sticks that I bought for like $20 down in Boda, and they were kind of heavy. And then, of course, this Patagonia jacket was wet through. Like I arrived freezing and wet, and I realized I didn't have the appropriate gear for the mountains. And so then I booked a hotel at that hotel I took you to, Kumbu Lodge.
Yes.
That's the first
I've
time I went and
visited there
stayed there.
multiple times actually since we
Yes, the
went there
best
for K.
coffee I know. And
It's one of the oldest lodges in
I know.
Namche.
And President Carter stayed there.
Yes.
Jimmy Carter stayed there. Anyway, they're very, very beautiful family. And Pemba's wife, she died very suddenly a few years ago. So, but anyway, they were there then. So I went up. They were so kind to me, and helping me adjust to the climate. But the French team went off and they said, "Do you want to come and stay in our hotel?" I said, "I'm not going any further up that hill. I am staying right here." And I'd already booked a hotel. A friend of mine in Australia had actually sponsored that hotel for me. So I stayed there several nights in the end because it was so funny. I would get up to go and then I kept forgetting things, and Pemba would like, Anila, I think you better stay another night and don't go any higher or something. Like I'd be going backwards. But they had this really great food, really nice people. They had coffee and apple cake, and Mingma was just the most wonderful cook. So I had a beautiful time with these people.
Mm.
And so trying to get my washing done in all that rain, that was the other thing. I couldn't really leave because I didn't really have clothes. And the first time that all my robes came back, they were still covered in mud. And that was because, I don't know, I had to get them washed twice or something anyway. So that was the start of that journey. Then when the weather cleared again, we got, Annie was like, Anila, where are you? And I'm like, well, I'm stuck in Namche. I'm basically drinking cups of tea and eating cake. Anyway, so eventually, and what I discovered in Namche Bazaar when I was there, I didn't do it the first time, but they have all the name brands for everything up there. So like if you forget something or you don't feel that you've got enough proper gear, you can buy it all there. And I also discovered the next time I went up, you can get oxygen there as well, like little canisters of it. Remember, I got that year. So anyway, then then finally I got my time to go up to Rinpoche's, to up to Laudo Gompa, and I had a porter as well. So that when we got to, it was either, I can't remember, it was either Tesho or Mende, and Anila had sent people down with tea and something to eat. And she always does that. I think it was boiled eggs or something we had and a cup of tea. It was really nice. Actually, really needed it. So then I walked up and met Anila, and it was just I was there doing a Lam Rim retreat. That was my first time. And then there's this time every year, like about the 15th of the month. It does this, what Anila calls a 3-day rain. And it sometimes coincides with what she calls the killing of the animals in the street down in Kathmandu, where they have that, was it Dashan or something? They have that festival where they sacrifice all the animals. And she said the rain comes to wash all the blood away or something like that's how she interprets it. But it was this 3-day rain. I'd never seen rain like this before in my life. It just came down and just felt like forever. And then the first day when it stopped raining, I looked out the window and the sun was coming through the clouds. And I was like, oh, it was such a relief. And there was 2 other people with me who were also doing some retreat. And so we all decided to go over to Tame. And so we went over to Tame. That was my first visit in Tame. And then we came back. And that was just I don't know, for some reason I decided I was only up there for like 2 weeks that first time. And it was when I decided I'd like to go back. And I kind of fell in love with the cows as well, the baby cows. And I did help with once it stopped raining, I was helping a little bit with the cave and everything. The next time I went up, I had been working for Liberation Prison Project when we were in Raleigh. And then I was doing the water bowls in Rinpoche's quarters at the retreat, the Lamrim retreat that we would do there every year, Light of the Path.
Mm-hmm.
And Rinpoche just came up to me one day when I was doing the water bowls and said, "How would you like to go to Laudo?" And that was his way of saying, "You're not working for Liberation Prison Project anymore." I was like, "Okay, yeah, I'd love to." I said, "I really love to go." So I went up there. I think I did like 3 months up there of retreat, and
Which month?
that it was just it was July, August, September, something, or
The
August.
rainy
So,
season.
anyway, yeah, and it was a beautiful trek up from what I could remember because that time of year, everything's kind of it's not too wet that time of year, sort of July, or maybe it was September. I can't remember, but I was up there about 3 months and doing, and then so finally it got to about, oh no, that's right. The first November was when I did my first November course. So that was
Mm.
2013, and it was in November. It was about November 6th. It was the beginning of November. I think I've been up there at the end of October, and I called Annie Fran and I said, "I'm freezing." And she said, "Why don't you come down and do the November course?" Yes, that sounds like a really good idea. So I went back down and did the November course. And then anyway, so the next year, 2014, I went back down, and I think it might have been that year that they asked me to lead some meditations or something after at the end of the meditation course. But again, I was cold. I was like, I'm freezing. And the next year, 2015, by that time I got a little bit wise and had bought myself some decent clothes to wear up there. Because it was just really what I was trying to trek in wasn't really suitable.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I went up again in 2015. 2015 was the earthquake. And so what had
Mm.
happened was I was in, where was that? Atlanta Medicine Buddha, and I was kind of studying, but it wasn't really working out. I was moving from one room to the next. And then I just looked at my phone one day and I saw the magnitude of the earthquake, and I was like, "You got to be joking. This is horrible. Did anyone survive?" And so I immediately got on to the WhatsApp with Venerable Sangpo, and I said, "Could you please ask Rinpoche if it's beneficial for me to go to Laudo?" I had no idea what I was thinking. But Rinpoche came back and said yes. So I was a bit scared because then I booked my flight, and then there was an aftershock that was quite big. And I was like, "Oh, maybe it's not such a good idea." And so I called the airline. They're like, "No, we won't give you your flight back for this. It was only for the main earthquake." So I was like, I flew over there, and there was just the flight from Singapore to Nepal. There was me and a bunch of journalists. There was really hardly any tourists. I don't think there was any tourists. And then when I took my flight up to Lukla, it was the same thing. It was me and humane society type people, like Red Cross and all these kind of people going up.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I walked through all the villages, I couldn't believe it. It was just such a mess. Everything was such a mess. And it was heartbreaking to see because even though everything kind of looks higgledy-piggledy, there's
Mm.
order to that place. And I just really felt heartbroken seeing all those broken things.
Yeah.
And then I had two porters. I was taking quite a bit of stuff up for Anila, and I did get sick on the track for some reason. I don't know. I picked up something on the way up. And then finally, and there's Anila again going, "Anila, where are you?" Like, "I am in Josale. I'm stuck. I don't know where. Anyway, so I finally got up there. And I think it might have been 2014 where Anila had started to show me the various holy spots around the place. And she called them special rocks. And there's one rock just below Laudo, and we'll pass it when we go on the pilgrimage, where Guru Rinpoche apparently subdued a spirit, a female spirit, with his purba. And so Anila, you can see in the rock itself, there's these markings like
Mm.
he's drawn with his purba, his his kind of like sword, ritual sword. And then people were putting prayer flags and stuff, not prayer flags, but katas and stuff over this particular rock. And then there was kind of quite a few special rocks up there actually. So it might have
Mm.
been that 2014 where she started showing me. And when you go to the cave, if you look at that cave long enough, you can, Anila was showing me about the elephant prints on the cave. You disappeared. You're back. And then what
Uh,
I did also see was you can actually see there's an outline image of a horse on the cage, but it's not painted. It's just emanating there. It was very
Wow.
interesting. There's actually you sit
Sorry,
and
is
look at
this
that
in
cave. It's in
where is
Laudo.
this one? Oh, in Lawudo.
That's the Laudo cave. You can actually see if you take a photograph, you can actually see all these extra, and they look like a little horseshoe and a little horse. And then I'd run down to Amy and I go, Amy, I saw a horse on the cave. She'd be like, hmm. Like she wouldn't, they must all know about it. I don't know. Anyway, I kept seeing all these things on the cave, but she did tell me about there's something special about that cave, this with the elephant prints kind of going up.
Mm.
But they don't really talk that much about all that. But I am. Seems like I am doing that.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
you're
am.
frozen again.
Something is up with my internet. Try not to
Okay.
worry. Your voice is unbroken from my side.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Um,
I do have, I mean, there's a few, you've just shared so much about just those first few times, the first time especially, and then the following 3 years, I think, that like 2013, 14, and 15 that you spent up there. And I think the couple of things have stood out. The first thing is around the con the first thing I guess I want to cover is or talk about that.
the rain.
Hang on, I'm getting some. Man, all of these. Okay, maybe I'll talk about the obstacles first. So, because since I'm experiencing obstacles right now, um, so in terms of your first visit, there was so many things. I mean, you described this whole saga, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, just like trying and failing and waiting and
Yeah, I
cancellation.
couldn't get up.
Exactly. So many things happen. And I think it's a common experience actually for
Oh, interesting.
having a wish to want to go somewhere that's, um, an amazing place that's connected with practice of practitioners and with meditators and with the holy beings and dealing with these obstacles like through pilgrimage. So this is the first pilgrimage that I mean, you mentioned that you had been on pilgrimages before, but then now on your own, this pilgrimage, these obstacles have come up. And I was just wondering, could you talk a little bit more about pilgrimages, either to Laudo or your experience of pilgrimages and this phenomenon of having to move through obstacles and what the role of obstacles are on pilgrimage?
So I've done a
I guess
few.
hindsight's 2020. So when you're in the moment, you're kind of like, why is this happening to me?
Well, but the whole time I had this guardian angel of um a guide. I mean,
Mm,
this Tibetan Buddhist, so Nepali, I don't know, maybe he was Tibetan. No, he was a Sherpa. This Buddhist guide he just picked me up, and made sure I was taken care of the whole way up. And I just kind of think back on how kind this man was.
mm,
So at the same time, I was experiencing physical objects in the fact that I didn't have the proper rain gear or the proper shoes.
mhm,
And I was likely carrying too much stuff on my back. That's the other thing. Don't carry any more than your little pack on your back, because I tell you, as soon as you get up to altitude, everything feels a lot heavier.
mm,
And then all that kind of caca coming down coming down the hill, the mud and the dirt and the caca, and then not being able to get my robes clean. You just have to look at it as purification. So it's almost you play those games where I haven't actually played, where you have to go through certain levels and you have to go through certain different kind of realms before you can get to the Pure Land place on the other side. It kind of felt a little bit like that, that you kind of had to go. But on the way, there's these amazing people like, Pemba and his family and their beautiful lodge, which was just kind of just full of really, the people up there, they're traveling. So everybody that's coming up, all the Westerners that are coming up are all excited about going on their trek, or they're coming down from their trek, or so it was kind of a mixed bag, but you could only see it as sometimes when you're doing something really positive, it's almost like you need to purify, or you need to push through something in order to be able it's like you need a huge amount of merit to go up to these places. So that
Yes.
starts by a wish in your mind. You have to kind of plant the seed, like, I really want to do that. And then you will encounter obstacles on the way. So when things sort of start happening that kind of don't work out the way you want them to, rather than getting down, the best way to see it is, oh, here we go, and then rejoice that it's happening. Because
Mhm.
one of the things they say is, if it's better to have a cut finger now in this realm than to kind of have your whole arm burnt off in a hell realm. It's like you kind of purify all this kind of karma. And maybe because it takes so much to get up to these places, and they really do feel like Shangri-La up there. The air is clear. When you go up there in the monsoon time, there's all the streams are running. Everything's like
Mm.
trickling, and there's moss and ferns, and it's just gorgeous. And there's birds singing. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. So if you do go up in the kind of the off season, there's always less people around.
Mm.
So I guess when we're going up, we're going right at the beginning of the trekking season. So it's likely not to be so many people as if we were going up in November.
Yeah, we're
But
going in the end
so
of
that
the rainy season, just before the
yeah,
in the middle. Yeah.
in the middle.
Before the
So
middle before
does that
the crowds.
yeah, before the so does that kind of answer the question?
Yeah. Amazing. I think what's what I reflect on is how you just your memories of your memories of that experience. What stood out that you're talking about now to me is just this visceral this this visceral experience of the mud and all that shit coming down the hill, and then the kindness that
It
you
smelt
also.
really bad too.
Yeah, the
It was
sensory,
horrible.
I can imagine that
It was
sensory experience, everything that was part of it, how you must have felt, what it smelled like, what you were seeing in disbelief, but then also contrasted with, this kind of kindness of, how people were making you feel, and the various encounters that you had with people who actually live there. And that sort of brings me to this other thing that's kind of sticking out for me as I listen to you talk about how the conditions are up there, and the resilience of the people, and the way that they sort of express that resilience, and how, to visitors and through hospitality. What do you how have you, I mean, I call it resilience, but I mean, you referred to Pember's kindness. And for me, when I go up there, I can't, I think I've referred to it in the past as radical compassion, because I mean, we often do courses online to teach us various compassion practices. We do meditations around compassion. We think that, okay, now I'm going to like focus on cultivating my compassion or something. And then you go to places like the Kumbu, and you go to Lawudo and you meet people there, and you can't separate compassion from their being. And it's just through everything that they do, it's through every action that they might be just handing you a plate. It's not really just the fact that they're giving you food, it's the way that they hand you the food. I mean, it's like it's just this amazing it's this
Offering.
offering for you. And so I mean, that for me, I find extremely moving. And I'm just wondering if you can
Mm.
speak a little bit about how you mentioned earlier that you have you observe yourself to have a mental spaciousness, like like combined with this spaciousness of the valley and the mountains. and this mental clarity. How is that connected, do you think, with your experience of the people and how they are?
Well, one thing is, um, they're all brought up mostly Buddhist. So they have an understanding of karma, and they do have an understanding of how to look after people. They also know that when you go up there, they want you to come back to their lodge. But it's more than that somehow. You become part of their family. Once you start going back and staying in the same place over and over again, they get to know you. And um, I think this experience of having a mind clear has also got something to do with when I was first going up there, there wasn't any internet, there wasn't any phone, there was
Mm.
no connectivity at all. And when you got up to Namche, maybe you had 3 bars or there was 3G at that point. Now, of course, you can get anything anywhere, but it would only take like a little bit of a rainstorm or something to knock out the valley's internet connection. So internet was unstable or non-existent. So you really just are relying on your own resources. So there's very much, it's just you and nature. And
Mm.
and then you go and then in between there's a few places where you can get cups of tea, and then you go and stay in your lodge. But it's very basic. But
Mm.
still, it's the warmth of the people. They really do want you to go away with a good experience. And it's genuine. And for me, it was when I got up to Laudo that I felt this kind of, it's just very expansive up there. When you go up and you can
Mm.
see for miles and you see mountains,
Mm-hmm.
and the air is very clean, of course. And there's this, beautiful rivers. I mean, it's so mind-blowingly gorgeous. You kind of, in a way, have to, and you can't do anything. You can't rush off to a movie. You can't kind of get onto your phone. Well, you couldn't back then. You can't necessarily have whatever it is you want. You can't go shopping, really. You can in Namche now, but back then it was all quite kind of limited. So you're in a way thrown back on yourself, but back on your own resources.
Mm. I love
And
that.
it was kind of, in a way, it was beautiful, really, really. And it's very, very spacious. That trek, it's almost like you've left A, you're going to get to B, and somewhere in the middle, you're in kind of like no man's land. It's almost like when you're transiting in an airport, except you're in a beautiful space. And it
Mm.
is like a kind of, honestly, a Shangri-La. And one time I was up there in May. So towards the end of before the pandemic, I was leading meditations at Kopan. I don't know if we're supposed to say that. Anyway, it was um I was volunteering.
Mm-hmm.
And then one time I went up in May, and of course, my goodness, the rhododendrons, it was just like a Shangri-La. And there would be these
Mm.
petals of pink and yellow and white just carpeting the path. And then you kind of go through. And so there's people up there who are studying the glaciers. Like when you go and stay in the lodges, I met this group of people who were studying glaciers. That was their job, to make sure that the glaciers weren't shifting or moving so that there wasn't an outburst like there was at Tame last year.
Mm.
And then you go up and then there's someone who's a botanist and they're looking at flowers, and then you go walk past there's one little place, um, and you walk past and they're kind of growing trees in there. So there was a time when everyone was allowed to go out and chop trees down, but they're not allowed to do that. So they take the environment very seriously.
Mm.
There's Lakpa Sherpa. He has a house in Tamo, and I think he's like a bit of a leader. But a lot of many of them have actually been to university, they've gone overseas, and they've brought back the knowledge of how to take care of the mountains, how to take care of the environment. So you're aware of this, they're not trashing the place. And
Mm.
they have people coming along and picking up rubbish off the trekking paths as well. So one of the things that they've started to encourage tourists to do is to take out their own rubbish. So you don't leave it up there, because where is it going to go? There isn't a garbage truck that's going to kind of drive by. It goes into a hole in the ground. So I would always encourage everybody who was coming up to Laudos to take their rubbish with them. It's a little bit of an ask, but they're doing that now at Mount Everest too. They're asking people to bring their rubbish back down
I think it's
because
really important to do
I
that.
think it's a absolutely
I mean, if even
because
if you can't bring everything, just bring back at least one bag
one
with you.
bag.
Yeah.
I think you can get the bags in Namche now,
You can.
or so you can get them
There's an
somewhere. Yeah.
organization called Sagamata Next. I visited them. They
Yes.
yes,
Did
it's
that
run
guy?
Tommy.
Yeah, that German guy. Yeah.
I think he's Swedish.
His name. Oh, is he sweet? Actually, he's
Yeah,
Tommy.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's friends with Pemba.
Yes, that's how I met him.
Yes.
And I
Yeah.
visited Sagamata Next, and their whole
Oh, you
operation is
did?
like, yes, because they also have an art residency up there, where the
Oh.
artists work with rubbish. But I visited because I mean, I wanted to see more about like how they've integrated themselves into the community, and his wife is Sherpa, and what they do for Namche in particular. And
Hmm.
just speaking to him, he just said, "Well, I live here, so I don't want it, I just want it to be here for generations to come." I mean, he's also got vested
Yeah.
interest, obviously, but it looks like what they're trying to do. I mean, just trying to encourage people to bring back one bag of rubbish, and they give you the bags, and and if you don't want to bring back the complete rubbish, they'll give you processed rubbish that's been like grinded down, and it's about 1 kilo. So we can bring up a maximum of 15 kilos, I think. So it's like including your carry bag. So by the time you've eaten all your food and whatever else, like
You can
surely
take a rubbish bag back
yeah,
down.
1 kilo is okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So would people have to go up there to Saganatha next to get it, or do they have them available down
I don't know. I'd have to check
in
that.
Namche?
But
We can
yeah, I'd
check
have
with
to check.
Pemba.
Yeah, it's not far to go up there. Like I'm sure that we could manage to
It's
go up
not
for the
far.
group. I mean, it's not far for one person to go up and bring back a few back for our group, I think.
Oh, I see. Okay, we could send one of the guides up.
Or any other keen beans that would like to. I mean, I particularly
I
enjoy
mean,
that
it's
walk.
literally like
It's
this,
beautiful.
Pemba. I mean, oh, the walk's amazing.
Yeah.
I do remember I went up there. I think the first time I went up there, someone had encouraged me to go up to Kumbu, up to, what is it? Kunde.
Yeah.
Anyway, of course, on the way back, because you go through that path to go back down to Namche,
Mm,
and on the way back, of course, the clouds came in. I had no idea where I was going. So
mm.
anyway, this one guide helped me. Again, another person just popped out of, I don't know where this person came from, but he said, or actually actually no, it was that same nice guy, the same Buddha man that was taking care of me. He sent one of his porters to take me back down. I don't know. That's how I survived up there. Otherwise, my own stupid, I probably would have got lost up
I just love
there.
how we've like nicknamed this angel, guardian angel, Buddha man.
The Buddha man, the Buddha guide man. Yeah.
Oh, now I've gone
Oh,
dark
you've
and
gone completely
frozen.
and you've frozen. Oh,
Oh,
there we
hang
go.
on. Let me see. I can fix
So I don't know
myself.
if I did that answer that quick. I think you have to experience this kind of, oh, it's the freedom. This is one of the things I experienced on the trek. Every single time I've gone up there, it's this sense of freedom. It's like I have no responsibility right now except to get from A to B. And on the track, it's just you don't have anything to do except walk. And
Mm,
and it's just fantastic. It's just and so some people use that trek as an opportunity to do their practice and their pilgrimage. So some of the Sangha, you'll see the monks and nuns, they'll just be doing, mantras the whole way up. And, they just take their mala out and they're just on mani padme. Anyway, a lot of the people, that's what they do. You know, um,
yeah.
Ajahn used to just sit all day long and do a mani padme hum.
Mm,
But it's this kind of sense of extraordinary freedom. That was my experience. Some people get on the trek and the track and they find it a nightmare. And I've seen several people lose the plot on the track, like because apparently at altitude you can be a little bit unbalanced
mm.
emotionally at altitude. So I saw one person just get so angry.
In your
It was
group or
no, no, no. It was just
like
some
you were
random
looking
person.
other? Yeah.
And we were just walking past.
Mm,
I think it might have been that same. I can't remember if that was the first time I went up or the second. Anyway, I was quite surprised, and then someone just said, because you don't have as much oxygen. So if there's any kind of anyway,
Mm.
but generally people are, you know, so some people, not everybody has a good time up there, and
Mm.
some people have to come down because they get sick.
Mm.
But if you take care of yourself from the very beginning, like altitude stuff, there's plenty of vitamins and things that you can take to prevent altitude sickness. So, the first time I went up there, I took Diamox, and it was a horrible thing for the body. I didn't want to ever take it again. So then again, I like what clothes to wear up there. I started looking at researching what vitamins could I take. And there's so much out there, and I haven't had a problem.
Mm.
You get a headache or whatever. It takes a little bit to adjust. But yeah. So anyway, this sense of getting back to this sense of freedom. And then, the trek up to Lawudo is quite steep from the path on to Tamo up to Mende. That's quite a steep path. But there's also this extraordinary sense of adventure and, again, freedom.
Mm.
It's just amazing. It's just, I can't really express. It's just that, anyway, your mind, for me, my mind felt free all the time, every time I went up there. So,
Wonderful.
yeah, so on the way up there, and we'll show it to you, there's a big rock, and you'll see there's a lot of juniper that's been placed underneath it. And I asked, so one time we went to meet the new reincarnation of the Tame Gompa,
Mm-hmm.
that young man, young boy. So he was about 5 at that time. And
Tame Rinpoche.
yeah, Tame Rinpoche.
Mm-hmm.
So he's about this big now. I don't know what he must be, about 13,
Yeah.
15,
He looks
beginning.
between 13 to 15. Yes.
Yeah.
He.
So he was actually born in Drosale, and he lived in the house across the road from my friends Wongmo and Kazi Sherpa, who
Mm.
have their guest house there. And he was always dressed in yellow. So finally they told me who he was.
Mm.
And then his mother and his father brought him up to Namche Bazaar one year. I can't remember which year was that. I don't remember. Maybe it was 2016. I don't know.
Mm.
Anyway, he was so confident on his horse and very happy to begin. I could tell his mother was a little bit, she was a little bit sad about having to bring him up to Tame, but he didn't seem to mind at all. He was like, let's go. Da, 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 da. Anyway, on the way back, Anila and I walked back up to Laudo along this path, and she stopped. She said, see that rock? I'm like, yeah. She said, that used to have an emanating R on it, AH.
Mm.
And she said, when the workers were building that hotel up in Mende, that beautiful one, they chopped the rock. And somebody then all of a sudden said, no, 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 you can't use that rock. You can't use that rock, can't chop that rock. So they left it so you can see bits of piles of rock. But anyway, there's kind of lots of those rocks all over that mountainside,
And do these,
emanating.
yeah. My
Yeah,
question is around the emanating rocks. Are these signs of the holiness of the practice that's been imbued onto the place, or is
I
that?
think it's I think it's maybe the purity of the place. I
Mm.
don't know. I don't know how it works. And then there's that holy, that big rock they talk about, Kumbhayula, and it's represented by, I think the deity is a horse or something. When you look at Kumbhayula, there's a face, most definitely a face on that rock. And we'll see it when we go
Where is
up.
this rock?
Kumbhayula is right above Tesho, which is that place where you walk through
Oh, yes.
the archway. So Kumbhayula it's a very pure place, just up from Tesho. And Kumbhayula is a sacred mountain to them. But sometimes Kumbhayula looks really peaceful, and other times Kumbhayula looks like mad, like really cross. And it's really curious to see that. So one of those, I think it was 2014 when I was up there for a long time. Venerable Rabina had like Rinpoche told her to do 400,000 satsas. And so I was at this point, I was like, oh, we got to get this done. I've been hanging on to this project for like since 2004 or something. I was like, how do I? And we had got the nuns up there they'd made like, I don't know, maybe 100,000 or something like that. And I asked Anila, can we ask the nuns to finish it? And Anila said that nuns want no more satsang. I'm like, why? And she said, well, we have nowhere to put. What happens is they put them out up in the mountains in caves. They don't really have anywhere to put 400,000 satsangs. It's not great for the environment either. And then she said sometimes they get broken, they get damaged, and it's just not great to make satsangs or to break them or damage them. So she said, you could do water satsangs. I'm like, really? Oh, that sounds like a really good idea. Anyway, so she said, you check with Annie Rabina. So I wrote to Venerable Rabina. I said, do you think this sounds like a good idea? And she said, yeah, well, if Annie thinks it's okay, then of course we can do it. So there's another monk there. He's no longer a monk, but anyway, he and I went down there. So Anila told us where to go. She said, this is a really pure place. You can do water satsangs as long as there is no human activity above the place where you are doing the satsangs. So you basically we had the molds on a string, and so you just punch the water and you say the mantra at the same time. And then Anila said, at the same time, you imagine the blessings, the mantra, and the actual deity, the image of the deity, floating downstream and blessing all the sentient beings and the animals in the water, the animals all the people in the villages. You imagine it's blessing all of them on the way down. So it was just amazing. I was just like, oh, this sounds like a really great idea. So anyway, or maybe it was the earthquake year. Anyway, I can't remember. Anyway, so it actually was the earthquake year. So she said, oh, Sangmo will show you how to get there. So we went down a Mende and then you cut through the bush, right? And you kind of like, she's like hopping and jumping like a baby deer to get, and I'm like, where did you go? But anyway, literally the drop was almost 90 degrees down. And I'm like, it was so steep, right? So anyway, I'm trekking down. It takes about an hour to get down. And then I was like, how on earth am I going to get back up? 2 hours to get back up. So the first time I went down, and then Anila had organized for the people who their house had kind of fallen down in the earthquake, and they gave us lunch every day. I mean, we paid for it, but we had lunch down there every day, and we did 2 sessions, or maybe 3 sessions, and a cup of tea, then another session, then lunch, then another session, then I walk home. And the first day I went back up there, and there's these extraordinary, really old stupas on the way, just in the middle of nowhere. And you see the most amazing birds, like these bright blue, I mean, the peacocks, it was just, that to me was probably one of the most magical times I've had up in Laudo, was doing those 400,000 satsas with Venerable. And we split them. I did 200,000. I think he did Lama Tsongkhapa, I did Miktukpa. And I would get up there. And so finally, I got up there. And the first day I got up, and Anila's like, how did you go? And I'm like, Anila, I'm exhausted. And she said, oh, never mind, you'll get used to it. I'm like, okay. So the next day I'm like, oh, okay. And then so I learned to take snacks. So I was taking bread, and I was taking bread and honey and tea. And so the only way I could get back up again was by stopping and having something to eat on the way back up. So I get halfway. And then one day I was coming back up, and I sat down finally. I'm like, oh, God. So I was almost at Mende, but I was just like really exhausted. And I heard behind me, like, oh no, what's that? And I turned around, and there's this ginormous what is it? Zog. Anyway, it was a Zo. Huge, great big horns. I'm like, it must have smelt my tea when I opened and I'm like, okay, I'm not staying here. Because they can be aggressive. But even though I was lying down, I'd heard stories about them. So I gathered myself together and walked back up again. And yeah. And then on the way back, it was always really cool. Sometimes Anila's cows would be still wandering around the bush. and they'd see me, they know me, so they would see me and they would look at me, and sometimes I'd get back up to Lawudo and they'd all be waiting at the gate to be let in, so I would let them in. They would come in they always come back
So
around 4 or
sweet.
5. I know. And so it was kind of like this really magical time, and I did that for 3 weeks up, and I got so fit, it was really And then there was another time I was up there. Anila, back in those days, would go down to Mende to do the potatoes every year.
Mm.
And so she would go down. And then if it got really foggy, even though she knew exactly where she was, I kind of had it in my head that she needed help coming back up again. So I would go down and we'd have a cup of tea, and then I'd come back up again with her. But sometimes it gets so foggy up there, you cannot see your hand in front of your face. And it's so easy to get lost when that happens. So Anila would always say to us, make sure you get back before 4 o'clock. Don't ever think about coming back any later than 4 o'clock in the afternoon,
Because the clouds rolling
because
in.
the clouds roll in, you can't see anything. And so that time where all three of us went over to Tame, we got a little bit later than we thought because we decided to stop for tea and cake or something somewhere. And we were lost. So we had to call and go, we don't know where we are. So Norbu came and got us.
Oh
We were
no.
going the wrong way. We would have ended up in Tamo if we'd kept going where we were.
Oh, now you've frozen.
So that was my adventures. Um,
I mean, listening to your stories and you describing this pure bliss that's interwoven with this insane physical difficulty, despite getting fit over 3 weeks. And I just love this connection that I'm hearing between freedom because you're in the mountains and you have nothing else to do but what you're actually doing. So in a sense, I kind of hear that that sense of freedom comes from just being kind of pushed into the corner almost to feel to be completely present, and then that leads to
I
this
think that's it.
expansiveness, and how this is connected with practice. And why do you think it's so conducive for practice? Or I mean, not why, but how can it's so many people go there to do practice. There's people who have done multi-year long solitary retreat in caves that they've built themselves. There's practitioners who we don't know about who have practiced in this place. And you've just described incredible practices that you did in your own time there. So thank you for sharing all of that. Normally people don't go into so much detail. And in terms of the practice, like why is it just something that you sense immediately, or you can't help but deepen your practice as you're there?
It's also they talk about, excuse me, how your ability to practice also is supported by the generations of practitioners that have gone before you. So you really get a sense of that. And so, of course, you're living in a
Even for the
culture that,
beginner?
yeah,
Mm.
it's going to definitely impact you. For some people who don't have a connection, it's going to be like, oh, whatever. But, you go up there and there's all these mantras written on rocks,
What do you mean by
and
connection?
connection to Buddhism, I think. Connection
Mm.
to this particular lineage of practices. But because
Is it a
this is a,
connection to wanting to, understand something about yourself that you can't really quite
yeah.
put your finger on, or it's a bit more specific? I guess, like, yes, there is a connection because you'll be seeing things and, feeling moved and things like that.
Well, the
But,
fact that you've even wanted to go there.
right. Yeah. So that is a connection in itself, I guess. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm.
Uh, but you get off as soon as you start trekking, there's these holy things everywhere. There's prayer wheels when you go through gut. There's all
Yes.
these hundreds and hundreds of mantras written on these rocks, and
Oh,
and
it's
they're it's
unignorable.
just
It's just
you
everywhere.
can't not notice that there's practitioners there.
Mm.
And when you go there at noonday time, all the people in the village who aren't working or don't have things to do are up there in the Gompa doing noonday. And so it's kind of like a life that's intertwined with practice is very much a part of the what the community does. And so of course when there's a certain kind of a practice up there that monks and nuns might be doing, it was actually that earthquake time when I went up there and they were doing a bunch of pujas and there was a lot of the monks and nuns were in Namche to do retreat. Again, it was really foggy, but you could hear at 6 o'clock in the morning these longhorns blowing. And it was just so beautiful. Like
Mm.
there was no one there because, well, a lot of the tourists had been scared off. So it was like me and a few other people up there in Namche. And so, but there was a lot of monks and nuns just wandering around Namche. There weren't tourists anymore. There was just monks. There was just Sangha wandering around. It was very cool. And they were all kind of doing retreat there. And, Mingma and Pemba, their family they were taking turns with other community or lodge owners to bring offerings and food and this and that up to the Gompa to support the people in retreat. So you've got a whole community there that is sitting and ready to support people doing retreat. So
Mm.
if you as a Westerner say, I'm going up to here to do retreat, they'll do everything they can to help you. It's just extraordinary. Like you find your life is being supported,
Mm.
and your needs are being taken care of. Yeah. And so of course what's that village just above Namche Bazaar, where that stupa is? Can't forgotten it for a moment.
Rinpoche? No.
No, no, anyway, it's a Guru Rinpoche. That whole area is a Guru Rinpoche place. So up in Lawudo, there's apparently one of the names of Lawudo is the Cave of Blessings. So
Hmm.
it was talked that Guru Rinpoche actually meditated in that cave. So and Guru Rinpoche was alive like thousands of years ago, or hundreds of years ago. So that's how long these blessings are kind of there. And that's, him putting the Purba in this rock. And then right above the cave where Rinpoche had those artists come and paint on the rock.
Hmm.
I mean, can you imagine taking all the equipment they needed up there to actually have those artists paint? They needed to be almost like abseilers to be able to kind of get up there and do that safely. It's just incredible how they did it.
Venerable Trim said it was a miracle no one was injured. And
Yeah. I
and it
mean,
was
it's
just
just,
and remarkable in the speed that they did it actually
yeah, I
as
couldn't
well.
believe how
Mm.
fast they did it.
Yeah.
And I think Venerable Senla said it took them a week to get the scaffolding up they flew it all into Mende and then they had to get porters to bring it all the way up. So anyway, I remember one time I was talking to Rinpoche about being up there and he had said that he had wanted that rock painted and he
Mm.
wanted that particular deity. I don't know if he
Amogapasha.
maybe had, yeah, but he might have also said Avalokiteshvara, but he may have said Agapasha. But anyway, he said there's like there's a it's a bay like a secret place up there,
The
and
Baol.
there's an entrance to this secret place. Yeah, but only people with very pure minds can remind me of that movie Shangri-La. It is like that up there, It's kind of
Mm.
amazing. There was one Geshe Anila told me that went up there and he got up there to that spot and fainted. So I don't know why.
Mm.
Interesting. There's a lot of very interesting, inexplicable things up there.
Yes, I'm very interested
And
and curious about the Baol in the area. I mean, the
I, w-
entrances.
yeah, it's it's kind of a little bit like there's supposed to be a terma, a secret text hidden in the cave. So I would go in there and I'd sit up and look at the ceiling, like, where are you? Show yourself. But I think you have to there needs to be a very pure mind for
Yes,
that.
I can imagine.
To,
Yes.
and also karma,
Mm.
special connection. But there are so many extraordinary, just extraordinary, brilliant things up there. I don't know. It's just I just find it a really magical place.
Mm.
even when it's pouring with rain. It's just very
Well,
uncomfortable.
I mean, even when you describe the rain, we had a lot of rain in the 2022 trek, and people were like, "Are we ever
I
going
was
to
on
see the
that trek.
mountains?" Yes, you were,
Oh,
and I mean, now that you describe this 3 day rain, I'm like, maybe that's what we got for that trek because it
I
was
don't think so. Oh
definitely,
no, you didn't have that 3 day
oh, it was much worse.
that you were. Oh, it's not in one garden hoses and they're all just kind of pouring down. It's like a fire hose.
Oh,
It's not even, how is it possible there could be this much rain? It's kind of like that.
wow,
And
it
then
sounds like a
Anila starts worrying.
cleansing, complete
Well, yeah,
cleanse.
and then except when there's landslides. But anyway,
Wow.
and then Anila would in the middle of the tour digging trenches so that the rain would come through and then else who was stuck in a shed. I mean, it was just, she's just extraordinary, really, really extraordinary. If something needs to be done, it needs to be done. She doesn't sort of sit in bed and go, I'll wait till the morning. She'll just get up there and go and do it.
Mm. I wish I could embody that type of attitude
Yes,
daily.
me too.
Yes,
It's
and
like, what
Annie,
earthquake? Let me zip up my sleeping bag. Well, actually, did when I was up there in 2015, there was another like 5 point something tremor, and I literally ripped my inner sheet trying to get out of my sleeping bag because I was lying in bed and I was looking at my water bowls, and then they went from going like this to like meh, 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 and I was
this is
like,
in
oh.
California.
No, 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 this is up in Lauder.
Oh, you were in
Uh,
there during a tremor. Oh my
yeah, a
goodness.
big one. And it went on for a little while, and I just thought, oh no, I need to get out. And so I ran down to see if Anila was okay, and she's sitting up in bed looking like completely deer in the headlights kind of thing.
Oh,
I'm like, Annie, are you okay? She goes, yes. And then I saw one monk wandering over. I'm like, well, you took your time. Did you sleep through that? And then we had a cup of tea and we went back to bed.
oh my
But yeah,
goodness.
it was scary. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm just so excited about even more so now after hearing some of these
Oh,
stories. And
good.
yes, really. And there's so much that we didn't talk about actually, but maybe we can talk about another time. Um, just about Anila herself and your conversations with her. I think like she's just such a special person and she holds so much knowledge. And I mean, just being with her without even speaking to her, you there's she's giving. That's my experience anyway. And you've spent so much time with her. You've walked with her. She doesn't walk much these days, but
No.
you've walked through the mountains with her. So I really am looking forward to talking to you more about those
Okay.
conversations.
Let's do another podcast.
Oh, yeah, I would love to. Yes,
Okay,
I
let's
was
do
going to
it.
ask. It would
Cool.
be great. All right.
Thank
Well,
you.
I think I've frozen again, so it's a good
Okay,
time. Yeah.
Kristina, let's close. I
One
have to go
minute.
see our precious Judith, who's 92. You probably I don't know if you've heard of her, but she's big Dharma person here in Marin. So she and Jack had this house where I stayed before. She moved into her home, her retirement village. I've got to go visit her now. So
All right. Well, thank you so much for your
lots of
time.
love. Thank you, Christina. Enjoy
Thank you,
Japan.
Venerable Katy. Yes, thank you.
Okay. And see you next time.
See you next time. Yes, please. That
Okay.
would be
Thank
wonderful.
you. All
Thank
right.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.